Egypt. The name whispers in the ear like the soft breeze off the river and causes the deepest part of the soul to awake. Memories of a long-forgotten song sung by a harper compel the Ba and the Ka, the being and spirit within, to rise up like sacred birds of this ancient land. Distinctive art and monuments make us reflect in wonder on the faces that gaze back from the past. Egypt has attracted many millions of visitors, with 8 million last year alone. The attraction is understandable, as it is here that the arts of medicine, of writing, and complex religious philosophies have their roots. The gods, the writing, and the magic that moves the universe are found here in Egypt. I'm Fred Lewis, and with me here at the Heritage of the Americas Museum in El Cajon, California, Dr. Thomas Mudloff, Egyptologist at the famous Field Museum in Chicago. Tom, your focus in Egyptology is all about magic and language. Why don't you tell us about magic in ancient Egypt, those sacred things and secret places?
In our time, it brings forth ideas and images of card tricks, escaping from boxes, people wriggling out of handcuffs, sawing someone in half. But in ancient Egypt, it was really none of this. It was in fact very serious business. Here magic was seen as an exact science with its secrets revealed only to a select few in the highest orders of the priesthood. In the Egypt of the most ancient times, magic entered into all aspects of civilization, as evidenced by the magical texts, medical papyri, abundant grave goods, and from the most sacred of temples to the most simple of private tombs. Magic was a spiritual force that moved the society, the daily lives of the people, and even the stones themselves. It was the force that truly could be said to have moved the universe.
A fragmentary text comes to us from the 18th dynasty, the time of King Tutankhamun, but was most likely originally written in the time of a king of the 10th dynasty, Meri-Kara. The text, which is in the form of an instruction to this king, tells us that the Creator God made magic for mankind as a weapon to repel the blows of events and to guard them by day and by night. So this force, which the Egyptians called Heka, controls the power of the kings and even the gods themselves, upon whose dealings one lives. At once, he was the god of magic, the magician, Hekau, and the force of magic itself. Indeed, the ancient papyri tell us that magic is part of the very soul of the god Ra and is in fact his secret name. The temples of Egypt, links between heaven and earth, representing the cosmos of the Egyptians, could not exist without this force. Magic is in the very walls and stones of these great structures. Here the atmosphere is thick with it, from the tallest temple pillars to the stone floor, and in the heavy silt-laden air one breathes in the inner gloom of the sanctuary. If the traveler is still and listens carefully, the voice of the god can be heard proclaiming his place and saying, "To me belonged the universe before even the gods came into existence. I am magician." The cities of the living, the cities of the dead. The power of the gods and the endless passage of time, marked by the sun's movement over the eternal Nile, all mark the rhythms of life older than the pyramids and those who built them. Here is magic that can truly say, if man fears time, time indeed fears Egypt and the magic that created it.
Magic, as viewed by the Egyptian, is neither good nor evil. Only the ends to which it was put would determine this. In order to understand magic in ancient Egypt, we must understand how the ancients viewed this force. Now, it has been written that magic is nothing more than the idea that we can cause something to be done concerning those things for which we know we can really do nothing. The Egyptians would not have agreed with this. Magic, as seen in the ancient writings, is part of the Creator God Himself. This force was manifested at the time of creation and became available to the priests in order to ensure the continued operation of the world. Magic would be used for healing and comfort, or regarded as evil or even sorcery because of its social effects. But even the gods themselves are obliged to obey the magician's words of power. In Egypt, magic was everywhere, and it still is.
South of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, on the Giza Plateau, the Great Sphinx sits in an excavated depression that was a quarry some 4,500 years ago. The Sphinx is associated with the Pyramid of Khafra and carved from the bedrock on the base of the causeway close to his valley temple. In form, it's a portrait of Khafra on the body of a lion. It is both a symbol of royalty and a guardian. The Egyptians called the Great Sphinx Horimakhet, or Horus in the horizon, and revered him as a god. Observe the sculptures and the immense architecture of the ancient Egyptians, their temples, pyramids, and tombs. Sacred things and secret places, known only to kings and priests. May your spirit be cleansed and your heart be pure as you enter these houses of eternity. In Cemetery 7000, just east of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, are mastaba tombs, missed by most travelers to Egypt. Khufu's mother, Hetepheres, was buried here after her grave was found plundered in ancient times, and the tombs of Idu and Kar are nearby. We'll enter the tomb of Idu, but first we should examine the magical inscription on the right-hand side of the west door jamb. Here is one of the very few curses in Egypt. As for any man who shall enter this tomb, not purifying himself as the purification of a god, one shall make a punishment for him because of it painfully. Well, let's go in anyway.
In life, Idu was a royal letter scribe in the presence of the king. This is a very high position in the court. Here's Idu's false door, unusual because his Ka, or spirit statue, appears from the waist up with his arms outstretched to receive offerings. In the panel above, which we refer to sometimes as the slab stela, two images of Idu sit facing each other at a table of offerings. Now look here. Here's a depiction of Idu, but notice the hands. Here the artist shows us movement in time with the music. We see two sets of hands. On the opposite wall, the back wall of the tomb, are 5 high-relief statues of Idu as indicated by the accompanying inscriptions. The smaller statue is Idu's son Kar, who also became a royal letter scribe, and whose tomb is next to Idu's.
Let's take a quick overview of things magical, sacred, and mysterious in Egypt. The Egyptian Antiquities Museum in Cairo naturally has the largest collection of Egyptian antiquities in the world. The ground floor is devoted to large pieces, stone statues, tombs, and sarcophagi arranged chronologically. Upstairs are displays of the treasures of King Tutankhamun, wooden models, papyrus, tools, and textiles. The Great Pyramids at Giza were built on a plateau to mark the place where the Egyptians in the Old Kingdom believed the sun entered the underworld. At the summer solstice, the sun sets just between the 2 large pyramids, forming the glyph Akhet, or horizon in the ancient language.
Now here's the step pyramid of King Djoser of the 3rd dynasty, with the beautiful cobra frieze, we sometimes call it a Heka frieze, and the Serdab, or the hidden room, on the north side, with the statue of Djoser peering out through the peepholes at the northern stars. The bed pyramid, the first pyramid of the Pyramid Age, and the Red Pyramid, the first true pyramid in Egypt. Both pyramids show all the aspects of the complete pyramid complex and mark the beginning of the Fourth Dynasty.
Here's Memphis, the old kingdom capital of Egypt, where little remains but a sculpture garden with a statue of Ramesses II so large they built a museum around the statue. Luxor Temple is right next to the Corniche, the main road along the river. At one time, Luxor Temple was linked to Karnak temples by a paved limestone street about 1.5 miles long with sphinxes on both sides.
Karnak, or Ipit Isut, as the ancient Egyptians called it. A complex of temples that's so huge, it's said that you could put Notre Dame Cathedral inside the temple and it wouldn't touch the walls or the ceiling.
There are many more temples. Edfu and Philae are examples. These both date from the Ptolemaic or Greek period. They are probably the best preserved temples in Egypt. The Temple of Philae was in use for the goddess Isis well into the 6th century CE. The Ramesseum, the funerary temple of Ramesses the Great, is said to be the most romantic place in Luxor, if not all of Egypt.
The magnificent temple of Hatshepsut, the queen who made herself a king and had herself depicted as a man. The most mysterious of places, the Valley of the Kings, with the tomb of Tutankhamun and many other once powerful pharaohs.
Deir el-Medina, the village of the workmen who built the tombs in the valleys of the kings and queens. The workers here took part in the first recorded labor strike when they refused to work until paid the village rations from the royal storehouses. Abu Simbel is the huge temple built by Ramesses II to dominate Nubia. Inside is a sanctuary of 4 gods. From the right, Ra-Harakti, Ramesses II, Amun-Ra, and Ptah, who is in constant darkness because he's associated with the underworld and not with the sun gods. The North Temple at Abu Simbel, which stands nearby, is considered unique among Egyptian temples because it is dedicated to a queen, Queen Nefertari, Ramesses' wife, in the image of the goddess Hathor. Tom translates.
What is unique here is that you don't see a queen usually shown this size. It says, we made these great monuments for the great royal wife, Nefertari, and then the part that's broken away we can reconstruct from other ones that we have, and actually inside this temple it says, for whom the sun does shine. And that's interesting because you never see that for a queen anywhere else, nothing like that before, and certainly nothing like that after. The one over on the other side says, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Ramesses the son of Ra, the one beloved of the ruler, given life like Ra forever. The most exciting sites are those that are rarely visited. You know, the ones that are off the beaten path, but we might consider out of the way. Such as the city that King Akhenaten built and called Akhet-Aten, the horizon of the Aten, or the sun's physical form. Little remains of the city today, but the nearby tombs are beautiful and quite fascinating. Another example of an out-of-the-way site is the temple dedicated to the Theban god Montu, found at Tode. Discovered in the floor of the temple was the famous Tode treasure. It's now on display in the Cairo Museum. These are sacred golden relics that were used in the celebration of the god's cult. The temple dates from at least the Old Kingdom through the Roman times, and it's located in the midst of a modern village.
The temples at Abydos and Dendra are especially beautiful. The temple at Abydos was built by Seti I and completed by his son Ramesses II. Here is located the famous king list that traces the line of Egyptian kings from Menes of the First Dynasty through 76 rulers up to Seti I. Only the legitimate succession of kings recognized by Seti I is listed, so the list is incomplete. Truly, history is written by the victors.
Also here at Abydos is the mysterious Osirion, the mythical gateway to the underworld and the tomb of the god Osiris. Today it's partly underwater.
The temple at Dendra is dedicated to Hathor, cow goddess of pleasure, love, and of dance, music, and song. The temple shows fascinating wall scenes of priests ascending to the roof for the festival of the new year and to the pure place where the deity was exposed to the sun for regeneration and new life. The round zodiac found on the ceiling of a room on the temple's roof shows us the stars which the Egyptians called decans and is the oldest known zodiac in the world. These 36 bright stars that rose in the sky just before sunrise mark the start of the 10-day Egyptian week. In some cases as old as the pyramid texts, these stars were regarded as having magical power and were the guide for the pharaoh after his death. On the road to Aswan is the ancient town of Nekhen, home of the vulture goddess Nekhbet. Across the street on the left are several New Kingdom tombs that are beautiful but rarely seen. Tom takes us into the tomb of Pahari, one of the town's mayors. We get a glimpse into just how the Egyptians viewed the writing we call hieroglyphs, but what they call Medo-Neter, or God's words. Through the magic of the recited words, Pahari will be allotted all his needs in the afterlife, and he tells the speaker, "There is good for you when you do it. You will find in it profit and praise." Let's continue to Aswan. Kamambo Temple is unique in its dedication to two gods, Harwer, Horus the Elder, and Sobek, the crocodile god. It is the most spectacular of the river temples. Here are sacred things and secret places. Kamambo is honeycombed with crypts, secret passages, and tunnels under the floor, where priests were the source of the god's human voice. In a carved niche on the outside back wall of the sanctuary is carved the hearing ear in its shrine. Here, the prayers of the afflicted and of pilgrims beseech the help of the god Harwer, the healer, for relief from their sufferings.
The magic hieroglyphs. Speaking the name of the king provides him with eternal life. Now, the book Hieroglyphs for Travelers by myself and Ron Fellows teaches an easy method to translate and understand many hieroglyphic inscriptions. Here, for instance, on page 12, phonograms and sound signs. Now, look for the letters above that represent the signs that are pictured in the ruler's cartouche. That's that oval thing at the bottom of the page. The first sign represents the letter KH. The second sign is U. The third is F, and then another U. The result is Khufu. Khufu was a 4th dynasty king, the king who built the Great Pyramid. Try the second cartouche. We have P, T, O, L, M, Y, S. That's right, Ptolemy. Ptolemy is the name of a whole series of kings that ruled late in the Egyptian historic period. Ptolemy is a Greek name. That's why there's an S at the end.
With all the mystery, magic, and secret places, Egypt was and is a peaceful place. Peaceful for the women, the farmer, and the little children. But even today, Egyptian women who wish to become pregnant, when all else fails, will go to the temple of Hathor and offer prayers. The people of the villages still believe that these temples hold magic in the very stones themselves, resorting to scraping the stone from the walls to mix the powder with liquid and then drink as a folk remedy for a variety of maladies. To know the ancient magic is to know power. Magic takes many forms in our world of visible things, but it gave the Egyptians an invisible means of support, indispensable in a universe comprised of strange and powerful beings. For to control magic is to control the gods themselves. Even in the scientific world that we live in today, the Egyptologist must be open to follow where the trail leads, even if it seems an unlikely destination. Long years spent in museums, classrooms, and libraries must give way to the actual contact with Egypt itself.
In Egypt, magic is persistent. Its presence is everywhere, and if we try to examine this ancient civilization in the cold light of our reason alone, we will surely miss that humanity that makes the link between our time and theirs, between our people and theirs.
Stand in the tombs, the temples, observe the hieroglyphs, and then listen for the voices that seem to seep from the very walls around you. They speak of a time long past, but still strangely present. It is in these places that we discover the heart of the mystery, the land of the living, and the abode of the dead, the sacred and the secret.
Your Ka is with you, does not leave you. Yours is the sweet breath of the north wind. So says the singer who keeps his Lord's name alive and sings to the Ka every day.